At this moment, the floor is to Cardinal McCarrick, that is the real organized, the real initiator of this meeting. Thank you, Eminent.
There is a great expression in English that success has 1,000 fathers and failure is an orphan. I think this successful gathering here has not just one but 1,000 fathers, and His Excellency Bishop Sarando is certainly one of them, because we are in his land, in his property, and because of his kindness we are able to gather together this very distinguished group of men and women, and how good it is that we can all get together with the same hopes, the same desires, the same challenges that faces us all in our world of today. So, Excellency, thank you so much for being one of the real masters of the table at this place. Of course, we are honored to have the Foreign Minister of the Holy See, Archbishop Yaha, with us. It's a special joy. He has been a great friend of all the nations that are represented here, and a great friend of the world community, and with his wisdom, his experience, and his insights, he brings to the Holy Father and to the Holy See and to the Church, as well as to the world, an extraordinary wisdom, an extraordinary goodness, and an extraordinary understanding of the difficulties of our time. Of course, without my dear colleague, Cardinal Peter Turkson, I would be walking outside in the rain, even though it wasn't raining, because if it wasn't for Peter, we would not have this, because when we spoke to the Holy Father, the first thing he said was, "See Cardinal Turkson." And I know that this is what the Holy Father says on many occasions, in many different circumstances. And thank goodness the Church and the world is able to say, "See Cardinal Turkson," and know that something good will come out of that conversation. So I want to thank Cardinal Peter for initiating it, for courage and wisdom, and for the enthusiasm that he brings to everything. And that's a great gift for the Church and for the world. So he has been a good brother to me, and I appreciate his leadership with the Bishop Sarando here today. I have the privilege of getting to know a number of you, but if I begin talking about my experiences with you, I will never finish, because there are so many whom we have met in times past. I think it's the former Master General of the Dominicans, and I know how often I've sat at his feet and listened to his wisdom, and so that his presence here too is very good. I regret, as we all do, the absence of the Minister, Dr. who became a real friend of mine a while ago, and I found him not only a very wise man, but an intensely human scholar who can joke, who can delight, who can be so serious on these serious points, and who could be so wonderfully human and wise on everything. So we have spoken already about him with some of his other friends, and expressed the hope that this will not be the last meeting, and that we will see Dr. Hu at meetings to come in the years ahead. I have 10 minutes to speak. I think I've used it up already, so I probably should just sit down. So I am sitting down, so I can't sit down sometimes, and because I'm usually sitting down these days, since I had a serious operation a while ago, and I am, as a result of that, developing a new method of transportation, which you see here. I have not tried it out completely because every once in a while I land on my posterior when I use it, so I don't recommend it. Those of you who have cars, keep your cars. Don't turn to the walkers. It won't. I haven't perfected it yet. When I perfect it, I'll come back and tell you how to do it. But up until now, as I say, keep with your automobile. I wanted to be brief, but I do want to begin with three very short stories. The first short story is this. About 4 or 5 months ago, I received a very strange invitation. I was invited to speak to the United States Federal Reserve Board, which is the group that does so much for the financial well-being of the world, and of course of our nation too. I began by saying I have a confession to make. I'm not an economist, and that became obvious after my first 2 minutes of talking, that they realized that I was not an economist. I am supposed, by trade, I'm a sociologist. The members of the College of Cardinals, who are mostly theologians and canonists and brilliant biblical scholars, look down on sociologists, but our day will come. I'm not sure when, but our day will come. When I got to speak to them, I didn't really know what to say, and so I just told them the story that you have all heard so many times, and yet it is a fascinating and important story for what we're doing. When the votes were being tallied at the conclave, and it was finally realized that I can talk about it because I wasn't there. If I was there, I couldn't talk about it. So this is the way. The interesting way we work things here at the Vatican. When it was clear that the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, Cardinal, had received the votes necessary, they all stood, I understand, and clapped. And as he was sitting again, the Cardinal next to him was a dear friend of his and of many of ours, the former Archbishop of São Paulo, who said, Giorgio, don't forget the poor. And that has been a haunting challenge to His Holiness Pope Francis in a very special way. Don't forget the poor. I think it was the last words he heard as an archbishop, and the first words he heard as the new Holy Father, and it has been a very special thing, part of his life. What we are doing today is not forgetting the poor. What we're doing today is studying more carefully and rejoicing more enthusiastically on the fact that this new Pope, this Pope Francis, has not forgotten the poor. In almost every statement that he makes, in almost every thing he writes, it is clear that he has not forgotten the poor. And that is why we are here today, because we are not to forget the poor also. Years ago, I was in one of the great nations of the world, one of the great capitals of the world. And at that time, we were talking about what are the needs of great nations as well as the needs of small nations. And a very wise member of the government said to me, we have tremendous needs because we have so many wonderful people. And he gave to me statistics which I'm sure are still not valid because of the tremendous growth of nations and the growth of populations. They said we probably have 300,000 poor people. 300 million poor people to take care of. And as we went on, he began to specify that 200 million of them are old people, and the needs are enormously great. And I said to him, and I hope it was passed on to the government of that great nation, I said, we've had so much experience in taking care of the poor and taking care of the old and taking care of the crippled and taking care of people who were in need. We would be so happy to be of help in any way we could be. And I spoke for no one except myself, and yet I spoke in the terms of the Bible and of the Gospels, that this is what Pope Francis sees every day when he looks out at the poor of the world and he reads the papers of the difficulty that the poor of the world are facing, and it is that touches him and that moved him into Laudato Si, and the splendid poetry, and not just poetry, but the splendid reality of that document. And we who have studied it and who have learned to maybe quote it back and forth, we see the tremendous opportunities that the world has in following the teaching of Francis of Assisi and of our present Francis and of all of you, because all of you have been teaching the same way, have been understanding the needs that my friends who came from this very large and important country have been dealing with every day. How do we take care of the poor? How do we take care of the millions and millions who cannot take care of themselves? How do we take care of all those who come to us and say, you are our leaders, help us to lead a life that is full, that is rich not in money, but rich in experience and rich in humanity, and all those things that are important to all of us. I am, as I confess once more, not an economist or a scientist. I thank Bishop Sorrento for his kindness in allowing me to be in these halls, which I would not merit entree by my own learning, but I am grateful to him and to all of you for seeing how we can sing this great song of Francis of Assisi together and understand how important it is in our time when the world is more used to crying than to singing. And so our job is not to cry, because that doesn't help, but to sing a realistic song of life and of wisdom and of reality. And that's what you are all here to do. And there will be many around the world who will listen to the song, and many around the world whose lives may even be changed by the song that you will sing. And so I thank you for coming, and I am so grateful to all those whose names I mentioned already, who have made it possible to bring you here. So God bless you all, and God bless this gathering. Thank you.